Descendants are the best story ever.
They come from a different time in punk. They come from a different world.
You have this idea that started in 70-something, and to see it still going, that's totally cool.
A lot of what people listen to obviously owes itself to the fact that those guys made records all those years ago.
I remember hearing the Descendants for the first time and thinking, whoa, these guys listen to the Beatles. There was a sense of melody and songwriting.
What instantly drew me into the Descendants was how much melody they had, how catchy their songs were. They're like the punk rock Beach Boys. The harmonies are great.
And this like shameless love song aesthetic, you know? None of the other bands had the balls to do that, you know? Everyone was screaming about Reagan or whatever.
I think the Descendants are possibly one of the most underrated bands that too often don't get the credit for essentially creating pop punk.
They're a part of the foundation, the fabric.
This sincere connection of pop and angst at the same time without it ever being this, like, thuggish tough guy thing.
Running out of time again. You have this singer who looks like a fucking geek singing about getting screwed over by a chick with the gnarliest band behind him. It was great.
Those sheets are dirty, and so are you.
And they worked just very few days off.
They're always pushing themselves.
Almost a militant, work ethic.
It would be insanely sweaty in the room. It was gross.
They're the most precise band, I think.
They were real players, and they prided themselves on playing their instruments very, very well.
With the Fury, man, it's right here in my heart to see these guys again. This is Milo of the Descendants, and I'm sorry, I'm Bill.
Bill is the brainchild behind the Descendants.
It is trippy that they were a drummer-run band.
Because our whole goal was like, yeah, no, it's cool. There's this thing called punk rock. Now let's take it somewhere.
In 1987, when I said, well, I want to go be a nerd, scientist, geek, well, then they said, hey, see you later. All of a sudden, they formed All.
Since this band's inception in 1978...
What other bands have you been in?
Black Flag.
What bands have you been in?
You're not going to get one person
You've probably never heard of them.
on this planet
They're formerly called the Descendants. They're now simply called All.
to say they like All better than the Descendants.
All better than the Descendants.
Give a nice warm welcome to All.
No fucking way.
No fucking way.
People literally didn't know who they were. They're like, well, who's All? I'm like, well, it's Descendants, same band, different singer.
Same band, different singer.
So there's a different singer, big deal, whatever.
There's no other band like them. It doesn't matter which one they are.
Doesn't matter which one they are.
The caliber of songwriting and subject matter that is so close and relatable to has not wavered, for 30 years.
I don't think there were any other bands that could do what they did.
It's good to see that those guys are getting the credit for what they, in a lot of ways, created.
But the show is far from being over.
It's just their time for people to understand that the Descendants had a big place.
Welcome to Descendants!
It's been a long time for us, so... Wow.
Warming up a bit this afternoon with a few sunny breaks and finishing winds. Today's high near 33 degrees. Dropping to a cold 19. Sunshine tomorrow and a high of 39. With the wind out of the northwest at 14 miles per hour, it's currently 25 degrees.
So going back to, before we had the bands, before Descendents, before Black Flag, that stuff. So there was fishing, of all things, to have brought would-be future punkers together.
My history with Bill goes all the way back to the Hermosa Tackle Box, which was a business that my father owned on Pier Avenue down in Hermosa Beach. My recollection is him working for my dad when he was about 14 or 15 and asking me, Keith, what music should I be listening to? Billy just struck me as that goofy kid that maybe needed some guidance. Maybe he needed somebody to point him in the right direction. I guess I was giving him a list of things to do to lead to freakdom or whatever. Little did we know that Billy was going to grow up to be the drummer of not only the Descendents and all, but Black Flag in between. See, we grew up where all of the music around us was top 40. The Doobie Brothers, or the worst of Fleetwood Mac. Most of it was pretty bland, pretty boring, and there was no bright spot, with the exception of the last.
Basically, I, like a lot of others, was really dissatisfied by the state of rock music. I was like 20, brought up on the Woodstock myth, and I just couldn't wait to get out there, start going to all the great shows, only to find as the early 70s developed that all the really good people died. And so I discovered there were these bands with silly names like the Ramones. That was like my big, cue. Threw a bunch of soundproofing in the garage, and at that time we came up with the band name The Last.
Through the Nolte brothers, we happened to meet characters like Frank Nevada. Total kook, total freak.
Frank came to my school, American Martyrs, in 6th grade, and I was just friends with him straight away. We both had interest in music, both started playing guitar at the same time.
They're just typical kids. The next thing I know, they're deciding to start a band. Yeah, we're gonna call ourselves the Descendents.
Frank came up with the Descendents. He had the funny spelling, thought he was clever.
Mid-'77, we're kind of hanging out, and this big kid on this bicycle that's like 3 or 4 sizes too small. My brother David goes, oh my God, I know that guy.
I had met Bill before he was in my Spanish class, so I already kind of knew what he was like. And I just thought if he could play any instrument, he'd be great to be in a band with, because he had just the right attitude.
Really, I would think I was a bother to Dave. I would come over every day and I'd be like, hey, you want to hang out? The friend that just keeps coming over and you're like, that's cool. And then Joe really, I think, thought I was a bother.
At that time, The Last was making an album, their first album. And so I gave him tapes like rough mixes, and that he really got into that. He was really influenced by our drummer Jack.
Yeah. Once I heard that, The Last, that She Don't Know Why I'm Here, man, I was like a total groupie of The Last. I thought they were the greatest band in the whole world. No!
What happened was Bill was intrigued by what David and Frank were doing.
Frank made a demo of his songs, and Bill took a tape and overdubbed backing vocals on it.
David and Frank got the tape back and said, oh my God, he may smell of fish and he may seem kind of weird, but this is the guy. He's better than we are.
That was truly the beginning of the band right there.
Frank got me into more punk rock proper. Ramones, Dickies, the Sex Pistols.
Those guys, they were like twins. the double whammy ultra mega duo, Nevada Stevenson.
Yeah, we met each other and really hit it off, and we would just go fishing like every day. I was in awe of all these great songs he had written, and he would play them on the acoustic guitar really hard, like Johnny Ramone style, all 6 strings. He had this bitter resentment that drenched every step he took and every word that he spoke. And his songs were just filled with that envy of people that are better looking, that are more successful. It was just really inspiring to just be around someone that just hated everything that much. You know, it was just great. It was not that long afterward where it was trash day and I was bringing my trash cans out to the curb, and 1 or 2 houses down, somebody had stuffed this bass guitar. It was sticking out of their trash can, and so I was, at that point, I had only played drums, and I was like, whoa. And I went and I got that bass, and I wrote, you know, Mayaj on that. It was just, I saw, well, Frank can write songs, so fuck it, I can write songs.
Soon after that, we were rehearsing in Frank's brother's garage in Long Beach.
I lived on Walnut Street in Long Beach. Frank's brother lived on Walnut Street in Long Beach. I played in my garage. I played the bass by myself.
I guess Frank had heard somebody playing bass sort of down the alley. And he's like, dude, I think Frank has a really high voice, so when I do Frank, I gotta go into the Frank. Dude, I think there's some dude down there that plays bass. Let's walk down there and see. Sure enough, Tony, you know, boo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
They came over when they heard me, and they were standing there and asked me if I wanted to jam with them.
He appeared to be somewhat older than us, but I have to say he looked and acted very young for his age.
See, I was in the band when I was 79. I was 34 years old when I started the Descendents. And they were 15. Now he looks at me like, oh my God, this guy's a fucking freak.
Beep. It all worked out. There's me and Frank just being completely ridiculous and asinine, and then Tony was in some ways kind of the voice of reason or the elder ambassador, you know, that would yield a modicum of propriety or reasonableness to our stupid arguments and this kind of thing.
What happened with David and the Descendents is, well, he was playing with 2 bands and he couldn't commit to practicing with the Descendents, so they kicked him out.
It's not really the Descendents as you know it today, you know, but I was there just before it happened.
The birth of the Descendents as a live entity corresponds with this sort of epiphanal birth, if you will, of the Minutemen.
We were called Reactionaries and we weren't Minutemen yet. And the opening band was somebody from Hermosa Beach. One guy was kind of our age or even older, but the other 2 were really young. The guitar man had a fishing boots, you know, rubber fucking... I didn't see cats like that in other bands.
Milo was the biggest Descendents fan. At a certain point, he would start making me pick him up and drive him to practice, and he would just sit and watch us practice. I mean, I would pick him up every day.
I think one day I was watching him practice and I said, I think I could probably sing It's a Hectic World, you know, and they said, okay, just go and do it. The mic's all set up.
We were just in there, and in between 2 songs, Frank just goes, fuck it, let's just get Milo to sing these fucking things. And we're like, yeah. And so Milo just got out of his chair and started singing, and that was it. It was like Frank saw the obvious that none of us could see.
One thing about the old days was the people involved were very individual. They're all characters. Frank's image was kind of neat. It was kind of A-frame with his legs and his up there high, and he's kind of a shorter man, but he was like a hard charger.
The second show I ever saw of the Descendents was at the Dancing Waters in San Pedro. They broke into the set, and he was playing guitar so hard and so angry that his pants fell down. He was an odd character, for sure. I can remember standing in line at a Misfits show, and all of a sudden he just sat down on the ground and started holding his head like his ears were ringing or something, and said something to the effect like, "What am I doing here? Where am I?" So that was Frank.
Oh, to understand Frank. Yeah, I don't know. I know he had a rough familial thing growing up, like just a lot of familial discord, and I think that can fuel a fire pretty well. I never sat there and like, wow, what made this guy so weird? Because I didn't have really familial discord. I just kind of didn't have any familial at all.
Tony, really good bass player. Intense about opinion.
Tony brings a unique style of bass playing. Every time they're on a chord, it's a run.
Oh, he was such a solid monster, you know? He had that kill bass tone. He had that growling type bass sound, you know? It was just kill. Kill.
Tony Lombardo, his bass playing on those albums of the Descendants is only entirely influential on my playing. Just that eighth note downstroke, powerful foundation of the melody. I think that his playing is phenomenal.
This is duct tape with fishing weights. I used to wrap this around my wrist, and I would play all downstrokes, mind you. After you took this weights off, you felt lighter and you felt faster. It might have been psychological, it might have been a little bit to it. Oh, cool headband.
I want to be stereotyped. I want to be classified.
They all had the image in a way, but Milo, his image especially was, I guess people didn't expect of a dude in a band.
While I'm writing songs about girls, I'm also having these things where I have to like rip things apart or something. So I have to write these songs about girls, but I also have to like
rip it up.
So he just became this kind of thing that was powerful.
Do you know what I think about you?
The hand in the back pocket to sing, you know, this intense projection. I don't think he thought about it. I think he just was what he was, but it came off being kind of a thing that I loved.
Most other singers were like macho or whatever, or like put on some vibe, like I'm a fucking weirdo, you know? And it wasn't that way. So, you know, kids could sort of relate to it. I did. None of us were fucking getting laid. We were listening to hardcore, you know? It's like, Milo was like our spokesperson.
We were starting to get more into faster-paced music and drinking a lot of coffee.
Give me my coffee.
Caffeine, it makes you hyper.
Come to Stevenson.
In general, it makes you want to play faster.
Oh, wait, we interrupt this broadcast to bring you this special announcement.
Warning, the bass master drummer has determined the copy secret.
My glasses are fogging up just thinking about it. People have it easy now because you can get killer espresso just on every corner. They don't realize what it was like back in the day to try to be overly caffeinated. You had to want it. You had to work for it. 10 spoons of instant coffee into like water, so it was like mud, and then put a bunch of sugar in there. It would give you the most hellacious sparks known to humanity.
Thanks to Modern Chemistry, sleep is now optional.
The scene was so small in those days. Stuff just didn't come to you. You had to make it happen.
Bands would get together and rent VFW halls or rent Eagles clubs or Nights of whatever. The clubs that were doing punk rock at the time, the ones in Hollywood, they weren't down with us guys with no punk rock appearance.
Looks,
There was no immature looks for that band. They had no, you know, back then it would be like the Addicts had a look, the Buzzcocks had a look, things like that. But the Descendants, they just looked like whatever they slept in their van, they would come out and play. And
these were these nerdy guys that didn't give a shit about an image or trying to fit in with somebody's clique, and not even trying to fit in with their own clique.
Working man's man, jeans, t-shirt, boom, steamrolled you from the time they hit the stage.
We were just about the music and kicking ass musically. Then you can walk out, you know, feeling proud.
Welcome to Dorena Central. May I take your order, please?
We were real fat people. We were real fat. Like I weighed about 240 pounds, and Frank weighed about 190 pounds. 40? Yeah. And we would eat hamburgers and stuff. People thought that it was like, oh, they do this funny thing. But we were like really into that. We were like into that. Like I wrote that song about going to like the Wiener Schnitzel and stuff. It was like we were all into it, you know? We were like, yeah.
I just decided to not write normal songs. You know, I like food and Wiener Schnitzel. I thought that was the way of the future. Like, yeah, these songs are more cool than like normal songs.
I like food, food tastes good. I like food, food tastes good. Juicy burgers, juicy fight. Chili ladies, Robin side. Teenage girl with type of two. Got my way or I'll eat too. I like food, food tastes good. I like food, food tastes good. Johnson, I'm back at eating. I like food, food tastes good. I like food, food tastes good.
Then they made an album called Milo Goes to College. Yeah, we were like blown away by it.
Running out of time again. Where did you go wrong this time? When your problems overwhelm you, go get drunk, it's party time. Take a prelude, relax your mind, relax your body too. Run from your problems, but you'll never get away. No one loves you, and you wonder why.
By the time we recorded Milo Goes to College, the pendulum swung somewhere maybe in the middle. There's a lot of melodic and pop elements to it, but it also has that bitter resentment I was talking about with Frank.
With the songwriting too, they're like these little films or these movies, these little adventures. You know, they're intense. Catalina, that's the big swan song on there, and it's the epic voyage. We're gonna go out fishing and shit.
I'm a mess. I don't care. Try to sit
You didn't get bored because Tony's like coming from way over there, and I'm coming from way over there, and Frank's over there, and Milo.
Yeah, I think the Milo record is like their thing, like their Sgt. Pepper, you know?
From the minute that I heard, you know, the beginning, it was like, you know, this is the music that I have been waiting for.
We made no secret about the fact that the Descendants were an influential band for Face to Face.
I heard Kabuki Girl on Rodney on the Rock, and kabam, there it is.
The Descendants were definitely one of my gateway drugs to punk rock.
I wanted to do what they were doing. I wanted to sound like they were sounding.
Resonated with both of us so much and spoke to both of us so much that it was almost this revelatory.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it was just instant love affair. It just changed my life, you know? I realized that you can make a punk record and have that kind of pop sensibility, but also be intricate.
If the Descendants had made Milo Goes to College in 1999, they'd be living in fucking mansions, you know? That's a fucking amazing record.
And don't even get me started on the artwork.
It just started off to taunt Milo. I mean, it was just to taunt him. You know, Roger just did these drawings, you know, like on you know, pieces of paper and would like pass notes to Milo just to piss him off.
Phil shows up at my house. He says, dude, I need Milo. I need Milo. I go, what do you mean? He's with you. Where? I need Milo. No, I need the cover for the album. You gotta do it. I go, well, Roger does the drawing. He says, no, I gotta do it. So, okay. I go, what kind of Milo do you want? So I draw him a Milo, and first was the crew neck t-shirt. Then I drew the polo shirt Milo. Yeah. And I do the Milo with a tie. It was a college. Yeah. So that's it. That becomes the cover of the first record.
Bill's known me since high school, and he knows that I've just got this whole dichotomy of desires. You know, I want to rock out. I want to be like a punk rock guy. But I also have this really strong ambition to be a scientist.
So what do you want to be when you grow up? A biochemist?
Yeah, I want to I'd like to cure the world of all known diseases and solve solve the world's hunger problem and solve war. I figure I should be able to do that within 20 years or so.
There was never the idea of like Milo not being a scientist and Milo staying in the band. Like, you know, he just was always real clear about being into his science first and foremost.
After that, Billy becomes part of Black Flag, and Descendants kind of went on hold.
Just get into it for yourself.
I'm about to have a nervous breakdown. My head really hurts. If I don't find a
Bill has the little boy. He's just this very high energy guy, childlike in all the best sense of the word, you know. But who else he was, this incredible work ethic. Just, you know, I will lay down my life to make this great.
Yeah!
Playing in a band where you are not the leader is a huge challenge, and it's a wonderful exercise in how to be a better player.
Bill was recording with Black Flag, and he invited me up to do backing vocals for Loose Nut. He pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, I got these songs, but you know they're not Black Flag songs. You know they're really more Descendant songs." I said, "Hey, let me hear them." So it was just an instrumental track, and he sang over it, and it's like saying "Silly Girl" to me. I was like, "Whoa."
It's called Silly Girl.
And he said, "I can't do this in Black Flag." And I said, "Well, maybe we should do them." He and I and Tony, Frank had already took off, so it was Ray.
At some point, Frank just took off, and he put all of his equipment in a pile and lit it on fire, and then moved to Oregon. Genius, right? He's a genius. But he and I had a very deep friendship in the end, and that says it all.
We recorded I Don't Want to Grow Up in like 2 weeks. I mean, learn the songs and record it in 2 weeks.
But we could have put a lot more practice time into it, but I think that the songs themselves are just really good songs. We play them all better now.
I got a taste of touring in Black Flag, and then I wanted to take that and spread it laterally to what the Descendants would or could do.
Bill came. He had just left Black Flag. He had a road trip all lined up. I just bought this house and a job and the girl. It was a mistake. I did it. It's my fault. Bill always points out, well, you quit, so. And it's true, but how long has it been? 26 years? I've seen murderers get off sooner than that. Their punishment. Is my attitude showing?
We're the proud, Descendants rocking alone tonight.
I feel like I was almost born a Descendant. It was the perfect vehicle for me to express my inner emotions and attitudes. It was the best time of my life, and I'd still be doing it if I could.
Billy and I and Milo all went to the same school, and that was MiraCosta High School. Some time goes on, and I get this weird note on my door. And it's like, you know, hey, this is Bill. I'm thinking about doing the Descendants again. Tony can't do it, and so I want to know if you want to give it a swing. So we practiced getting me brought up to speed, and then right as school was ready to stop, Milo jumped in the van and we started doing shows.
Milo Pillow Goes to College is probably the record you identify the band with the most, maybe. But Enjoy is kind of like, wow, they've like, I don't want to say they polished their sound, but they kind of took it to another level.
I was a jazz musician, right? And I was at Radio Tokyo cutting my own demos. And Ethan James, the owner of the studio, he says, if you want to come and learn how to engineer, I need help. And finally, I'm good enough, so he's ready to give me some clients, right? And so he says to me, you know, there's this record that I want you to do. I'm like, all right, a record. I got a fucking record, you know? And I go in to do it, and it's the Descendants, and they're farting. I'm a classically trained musician. I learned to play piano at 4, and I went to a conservatory for 2 years, and I studied at Berklee College of Music, and I knew all this stuff. And Bill's like, stick the microphone closer to my ass so you can hear this fart. Oh, it was terrible.
Vacillation punctuates is still not here, and I think odds are here.
I think that album kind of best represents them. There's a lot of farting, and that kind of, that kind of goes on when you're hanging out with those guys.
But as time went on, I discovered that it's not about what you know about the music, it's about, are you expressing yourself authentically through the music? And these guys totally brought the idea of authenticity to my fore, and that totally changed my perception of all music. And to have that, you know, bing moment from punk rockers was a real mind trip.
I love the Enjoy lineup so much. I think Get the Time, when I get the time, it's so amazing. I regularly lump it in my top 3 greatest songs in the pop music of all time with like Hey Jude and Under Pressure. It's like, dude, it's perfect. It is a perfect song.
What you mean to me?
And maybe if it didn't have a toilet paper roll on the cover or whatever, it could have sold 20 million copies. I don't know.
We left at the same time, but we probably left for different reasons. I just wanted to keep kind of experimenting, and that's really it. It was like, okay, cool, you're taking the ship north, I'm going south, roger. And for Ray, I don't know. I think he's not really the kind of guy that would have that kind of a heart-to-heart with you. Sometimes a man, a few words.
Ray's bummed, and he has good reason to be, too.
I'm not bummed.
You're not bummed anymore?
I've never been bummed.
Maybe just irritated.
No. You kidding? No.
I don't think he really wanted to be in the center of the tornado of the Descendants.
So Bill and I are sitting there going, what do we do now? It's like, we don't have a band anymore. And he must have had a friend up in Utah. He just called him up. You know, you want to do this bass gig with us? And he said, I can't do it. Carl's listening in like, give me the phone. Grabs one, I'll do it. Which was great because he came down and they just locked in completely.
Well, musicians are a lot like people in that sometimes you get a chemistry thing going on. And I think Billy and I had a certain connection, but I can't help but think, well, yeah, because I practiced bass to his records.
So Carl says, hey, I know where maybe we can get a guitar player.
I met Steph when we were 12 years old in 1976 in Bryant Junior High School in Salt Lake. I literally learned to play with him.
Carl joined the band, so I called to congratulate him, and that's when I found out that they needed a guitar player too.
When I met Stefan, he lived in the closet of a one-bedroom apartment, and he owned a bicycle, his skateboard, his guitar, not much else. He didn't have much money, you know, and the punk rock thing was tailor-made for guys like us, because it's like, oh, all right, well, we're not going to get anywhere in society anyway because we're the bottom of the pile. All right. Very easy to embrace the idea, right?
For me, meeting Bill, beyond my massive love for the Descendants music, was my massive love for Black Flag's music, and he had been in both. So the idea that it was Carl, my oldest friend, and I joining this band that were so huge to us, it was like living on a cloud. You know what I mean? We were just like, what just happened? You know, like, we just joined the Descendants. This is gnarly.
Stefan harnessed the job of trying to expand some of the melodic boundaries. And Carl, he's like a creative dynamo. And it was like, oh man, we're gonna get some music done now.
Into Descendants Central headquarters, which was a storefront on the PCH in Lomita, California. We lived in a little room with 3 bunk beds that Doug and Ray and Milo and Billy had built. We had a practice space in between the back room and then the front room where the office was, and that was our life. Those first tours were very grueling in the way that it is when you're not used to it.
You know, there's no money. We're playing, you know, in these little tiny shows.
Yeah, staying on the floor of whoever. It's the typical punk rock house where it's 3 in the morning and the music's up on 11 and people are drinking and shouting and you're trying to find a place to sleep, and this girl's got this brain-damaged mouse that can only run in a circle in the middle of the room. And this is the kind of madness that was kind of normal, you know. So sleeping in the van was real popular.
Carl, I'm not sure if the term savant might apply, but he's highly skilled in very specialized areas. And then, like, normal people shit, he's not as much into that stuff.
I guess it's more like late '86, and we just started working up songs for the All record at that point.
The almighty All. That man, that elusive man known as the Bass Master General. Yeah!
Well, the idea of All.
Thou shalt always go for greatness! Yeah!
My friend Pat McQuistion, he kind of put it into motion when we would be fishing at night. Orca was a 16-foot boat. And we would fill it up to where there was this much side room on either side before it was going to sink. And I'm like, Pat, we got to go in. And he's like, no, oh. Seriously, I would have to force him to not sink the boat with fish.
All? And Bill thought, yeah, All, that's cool. And so he started bringing this concept of All, and we were just like, yeah, All.
The preposterousness of it, it could almost eclipse the realism of it, which is going for greatness, you know, going for the utmost possible, the total extent where nothing's left undealt with. Descendants doctrine predicates Milo has to quit the band like every couple of years. It's just part of the story.
You know, the band was fun, but I hadn't achieved All, basically, in music or in science. But I mean, I had the opportunity to try to go and achieve All more in science, and I just decided to take that opportunity.
I toured him to death. We did all those tours in a row, and he's like, I gotta go focus on my studies and do something real. I mean, we were making $5 or $10 per day in our pocket, and that's it. We had nowhere to live. And you could see where a guy with the kind of brain power he has would say, you know what? I don't have to sleep next to Bill's drum set in the practice room.
Part of it has to do with the fact that I never really considered music a career, and so whenever I would leave the band, it was like, I'm doing this for fun, you know, and my real career is in this other thing. And actually, the more that the music started to seem like a career, the less I seemed to like it. In '87, I left the band, and we did the final tour, and there wasn't one of these things of like, well, I'm going to do this for a while, and then I'm going to come back to the band. It was more like, I'm embarking on, you know, my life's career to do this.
At the end of the day, his gift is science, and he chose that road, and I think that's great. From a standpoint of the guy in the band with him, there's a certain moment of, oh, fuck, what do we do now?
Tell them about punk. It's loaded with our favorite tunes, man. Yeah. Just listen. My name is Dee Dee Ramouse. Funky.
Somewhere in the late 80s, things got really lame.
Mom, do you douche? I sure do.
To order Punk, call the number on your screen.
Their answer was to form all.
I think Billy didn't push so hard to become New Descendants. I think he wanted all to be actually a new band.
I get off the plane and they're all there in the van. They drove me to Alfredo's. We ate at Alfredo's and we fucking practiced. I'd been in the plane for 30 million hours. Alfredo's, practice, go.
Here's your spot on the floor. Here's your microphone. All right, yeah.
We've got 3 Descendants, a Dag Nasty, and a Black Flag.
I mean, I wasn't writing for a band name. I was writing because some girl was treating me really poorly, and I was expressing myself about it, catharsis. You know, it had nothing to do with Descendants, All, Dave, Milo, or anything.
I know it was Billy now in charge. Totally.
All is Bill. Bill is all, right? I mean, when the concept of all, you know, you focus what you want like a dog on a piece of meat. You grab it and you don't let go until you've eaten the whole thing plus the bone, you know?
He wanted to try this thing where everything is just very, very focused and nothing is derivative. No creeks, no streams coming off the river, you know, it's just Niagara Falls.
Bill is very patient, and part of the byproduct of that is he will make you go over the part as many times as is necessary to get it down, and I think most people aren't used to that.
He would just push and push and push, and it could be really hard.
I don't know what you're talking about. Just because I had to sing just perfect for like 4 hours in the studio before he got the take he wanted?
He probably told you that it was excessively meticulous.
I said, dude, I'm really hungry, you know. Let's take a little break and I'll come back to it. And he comes back at this big Snickers bar. He tapes it to the other side of the glass. When you're done, you can have it. And I'm like, oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? All right, fucking push play.
Okay. That's basically your drawing
More
of heroin.
survival, not compromise.
It was constantly a battle with him. He had ideas of the way things should be, and the way the sound should be, and the way the mix should be, and the way the song should be sung. And it had to be his way. It had to be his way. And he was actually usually right, I gotta say.
I know I can make everything just perfect when I see you again.
Ace's documentary. Well, that's beautiful. Now we gotta fade to black. Bye, guys.
People literally didn't know who they were when I'd say, you know, hey, you know, you going to the All show? They're like, well, who's All? Milo was kind of iconic, you know, he had his own logo and, you know, with All, it just never took off the same way.
Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye. We'll see you soon.
I was on the road for 9.5 months in 1 year. And I remember we were doing laundry, and Bill started talking about the next tour. We were going to get back in 2 more weeks, and he was already planning the next one and the next recording. And he looked at me, and he said, "You're not staying, are you?"
We just went out and out and out and out and out and out. And I think he did what any smart person would do and moved on.
Take care, you guys. You're great.
You know, there's that instant thing of like, well, who do we get as the singer? And the obvious choice was the boy next door, literally, because Scott was practicing with his band next door to us.
I had nothing back then. I had no money. I was living in my car. I couldn't even get a shower. I was basically a bum, a homeless bum. And to be on tour playing music was the whole reason I left home. Even though I am too disorganized and right-brained and underachieving to ever be the poster boy for the Quest for All.
Scott's got a great voice. I think he's got a better range than most of these guys I see on American Idol or whatnot.
You can just kind of throw him anything in any key, and he can just sing. He's just awesome.
It was like we had discovered some great gem sleeping in his car outside our practice room.
Inside my mind, and she's never seen
seems like every album, you know, Bill would have the song that he knew was going to bring people to the band and bring people to the record. And She's My Ex was one of them.
That was where Scott got his first taste of how absolutely particular Bill was.
I've never been in a band where phrasing was so fucking important as this band. Carl would do some of that, too. Not as bad as Bill. Oh, God, Bill. He would just stop the tape. And it's terrible, because you're going, but you'll always be... And then all of a sudden, whew, the tape stops. Oh! And you have, you know, and you're clutching, you're like, what? And he's like, you're flat. And he goes back. Oh. So we got all done with this thing after days on one song. And he goes, that's awesome, we're done. I'm like, phew. And he goes, okay, let's double it.
She's my ex, she'll cross my mind 1,000 times today. Still have a million things to say. Guess I'm better off this way. 'Cause I know.
When Dave was in the band, we intentionally didn't do any of the Milo songs. And then we went ahead and sort of introduced a few into the set with Scott.
I'm a loser.
The first show I ever played, one dude was yelling, "You're not Milo," the entire time.
Hey, where's Milo? You're not Milo.
A lot of what we did was we called in the Descendants crowd, come see this band. And they'd go crazy when we play Suburban Home, but I don't think that a lot of people that might have liked what we did got to hear it, because the Descendants all thing, we just pounded it down people's throats.
It bothers me because every single record they ever put out, I just think, why isn't this not like, you know, top of the charts? You know, if I could take a fan and shake them and just go, no, you know, that's not the way it is, you know, it's ridiculous.
To this day, I still get a lot of that. You know, you're not Milo, and it's like, and I love the Descendants, don't get me wrong, but we never found our niche because we were always trying to get back into that other niche.
In our first story tonight, since this band's inception in 1978, they've released over a dozen albums. They're headed for Australia, Japan, and even Europe to tour, yet you've probably never heard of them. They're formerly called the Descendants. They hailed from Los Angeles, California. They're now out of Brookfield, Missouri, and simply called All.
You know, they got this thing, we're going to tour a lot. Why not start from the middle? So they moved to Missouri, this little fucking town, and we're going to tour from here.
That was a financial necessity, because LA, at the level of poverty we were at, was not that easy of a place to be in. We're living in a practice space, for crying out loud.
I mean, we made nothing. It was just impractical for us to live in California, and we weren't there that much anyway. So Bill came up with the idea, hey, you know, my dad's got this house out here in rural Missouri where he grew up. And it worked out to be really good for us because it enabled us to, you know, have like bedrooms and, you know, neat shit like that.
To have your own room is, you know, that in itself is just like, wow, this is, you know, this is rad. Where I guess a lot of people my age would sort of be wanting to have a house.
Come into our bus, won't you, Norb?
The chemistry developed, and it was basically go out and tour, make a record, go out and tour.
8 people living in the bus.
You got to know each other better than I think families do, and, you know, I think it very much is a family.
Like this bed here, for instance, is my bed. Notice the broccoli and the duct tape, the socks.
Bear in mind all this while that our fortunes rose and fell together. You know, we're all living in the same place. Kind of like the monkeys on the TV show, only, you know, with more dirt and smell.
These guys with the guns and sticks, they're getting kind of pissed. You guys gotta cool out.
When I was in the band, it was when we were at our most urgent. We really needed it to succeed. We were broke and filthy, and we lived like animals. If you listen to Percolator, this is where the riff started with us, because our philosophies began to diverge. When we went to record the Dot video, it was really apparent that Bill was dissatisfied. He wasn't happy.
At that point, I was idealizing we would put our foot forward visually with a song that maybe had a more like an eighth note drive to it. But like on that record, I didn't have really any good songs. So it's like, okay, a lot of lip from you, Stevenson. Where's your good song? You know, it's like, oh, I don't have any.
They're 4 distinct musical camps, and I think they're all very strong in their own way. Made for a pretty eclectic collection of songs.
I think people didn't react well to not having a consistent sound and knowing what the band sounded like.
If you consider music our child, our baby, you got 4 different parents. You know, what are you gonna do? It's gonna fuck up eventually.
Yes, that's just the way the story goes.
At the end, I just wanted so badly to go do something else.
When it adds to nothing, makes you wonder why you try.
We had a great run, you know, with Scott.
He has the best sense of humor, and he's so sharp-witted and just so fun.
Every decision I've made since I left the band has been the wrong decision. On the one hand, I wanted my independence. On the other hand, ironically, that's why I'm a bar back now.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Chad was really good to have come into play at that time because he was very laid back. You know, Chad's very laconic to the point of speechlessness.
It was killer. I mean, I was a huge All fan. I mean, I just grew up with Descendants and stuff and whatnot.
Chad had been sort of a fan that we just got to be friends with.
We didn't really know he was that good of a singer.
It was like, wow, man, listen to those pipes. It's quite striking, really. If you've never heard him and then you just hear him sing, it's like, whoa.
What do we do? What do you think we should do?
I'd say there are few people with more of a lucky, natural gift for singing than Chad.
Bill told me about Chad. He said, look, Milo got great. He said it took him a while. Chad was great.
Bill said, hey, we're trying this guy out for all, you know. And what do you think? And I heard his voice. I was like, yeah, get that guy.
Breaking Things was an accomplishment for us. I think I was harboring some yearning for that kind of Black Flag power in the guitars. But I don't think it has the intrigue of musical diversity that like Saves or Revenge has. You're comparing and contrasting these things, but it doesn't work that way, because ultimately it's just us expressing our ideas in our bedroom and then playing them in a garage together, and there's no direction for that. There's no rudder. So the records come out how they come out. You have to keep moving forward as a band, and so sometimes in order to get from point A to point B, there's that middle point where the result might not be what people expect or what they want, but it's part of your journey, because otherwise, yeah, are we gonna just do Milo Goes to College 19.0? We don't want to do that.
This is a song for the 90s from my buddies, the Descendants.
Welcome to Dorina Central, man.
May I take your order, please?
Yeah. I want.
This video looks like one of those old punk bands, you know?
I don't really like to think of this as just strictly one of those kind of bands who used to be punk rock and then went to a commercial.
It was the 90s. They were just throwing money at anyone who could hold a guitar.
Have majors been talking to you at all and trying to steal you away from crews?
Not blatantly. I mean, we've been, you know, in the music thing a long time.
It was weird for us, though, because suddenly all these doors were open.
So it's funny, people, oh, the major label, and it's like, no, we don't think about that stuff. The major label bought this stuff.
The money that we got from the major label deal, we just built a blasting room with it, which was the single smartest thing we probably ever did, really.
Next up, it's a live performance by All, who stopped by the studio earlier this week and played a few songs off their 8 album, Pummel.
Ladies and gentlemen, Pummel is the new album from my next guest. Give a nice warm welcome to All.
Everybody says they want $1 million, but I'd rather have $1 million days.
So we write about things that we have like gut feelings about, not stuff that we've analyzed intellectually and want to write a doctoral thesis on.
In summation, we write about the way you feel more than the way you think.
That was the last boom time the major labels shall see, so we got our licks in, and I think we got out of it a lot lighter than a lot of people.
What if we could just talk it over? If only we could somehow find a way. Maybe we could just start all over. If only we weren't breaking up today.
We'd gone through our kind of normal touring cycle process, started writing a bunch of songs, and just right after that, Milo, you know, approached Bill
and said he had a bunch of songs and wanted to do stuff. I mean, it's as simple as that.
The Descendants were reforming. That blew our fucking minds. We were gonna get a chance to see the Descendants actually play, because I never had gotten a chance to see the Descendants play.
I got a call from Bill saying, would you want to do a Descendants record, not an All record? And I was like, hell yeah, I would.
It was pretty exciting at that point because we just had so much material. It was like, how are we going to pare this down to the critical number? But part of that equation also makes you think it's going to be a fucking great record.
When Everything Sucks came out, okay, this is it. They're gonna fucking happen. People are finally gonna recognize that the Descendants are awesome.
Every song was amazing, and it just sounded so huge and so present. It was like the guitars were right there in your face.
What will it be like when I get old? Will I still hop on my bike and ride around town?
That's when Carl really, to me, stepped up his songwriting. I mean, he just killed it.
I can't say enough about what's upstairs in that guy.
He just has this huge bank of knowledge.
I consider Carl a better bass player than me.
A little more out of the box, a little more out there.
This guy is killing it, night after night after night.
Just him playing, making every other bass player in the world just cry.
I mean, fuck, we've been doing this a long time.
Close up on Stephen. Stephen Edgerton is a guitar player's guitar player.
See the chords that he pulls off.
He plays these really cool demonic sounding leads.
What I do is filtered through a lack of true knowledge of music, just an incredible love for it.
Like a genuine sweetheart of a guy.
I used to call him Poppy because if I had a problem, I could go talk to Stephen.
It's really gratifying when you meet people that are your heroes and they're actually as cool and as friendly as you hope that they're going to be, especially Stephen.
He's also incredibly smart, runs very deep. It's weird that all those guys are in one band. It's almost unfair.
You know, it seemed like they were embraced by the whole punk community again.
Descendants were just total heroes to us growing up. Like for me, I literally had the tennis racket pretending to be in the Descendants. And then our band got really popular in the second wave, along with Offspring and Rancid and NoFX and Green Day.
This was an interesting thing because it was a convergence of like pop culture and what Descendants had always been doing.
Today, everything sucks today. Everything sucks today. Everything sucks today.
I mean, that's when you really saw people like appreciate the Descendants the way they should be.
And we'd be here, Milo, Carl, Stephen, and Bill from the Descendants. I just want to say how great it is that you could come by.
Blah, 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 punk rock, blah, 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 the good old days, the Descendants, in for an interview.
You formed in '78 and then rocked, and then something happened, and then you're back now to rock again. Yeah, is there some special punk rock strain of biology that we don't know about?
Milo is a great, integral part of what the Descendants are.
He's the anti-frontman. You know, he's the underdog. He's the nerd.
Oh! Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
What a fucking dork.
A lot of the stuff that we do with our music is based on, like, having people throw food at you in high school and just trying to, like, you know, those are the people who we address a lot of our songs about, basically saying that, you know, you may think I'm a loser, but, you know, you're the loser, really. Yeah.
He's the antithesis of, like, Axl Rose or Bono fronting a band, you know what I mean?
He's seminal. He's seminal American punk rock singer.
I know my day will come. I know someday I'll be
Doctor, Master, Bachelor?
Doctor.
It was like 1 year of Fury, and then he kind of wanting to resume back into his science stuff.
Why won't the singer of my favorite band sing in my favorite band? What are you fucking talking about? You're not gonna sing in the Descendents. You'd rather go off and do smart shit somewhere? Why would you do that to me? It's hard for people to understand.
When you study biology and you go on to pursue other things, you don't leave punk rock behind, but then again, you do change your worldview a little bit.
Music was my hobby, something that I did for fun. Now that it's become a job, the damage has been done. I quit. What you think? I wanted to be like Mick Jagger or something. You know, playing the Pixie at 50 or 60. Give me a break. I mean, I don't want to grow up and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? The time has come for me to say, I quit.
I quit. At that point, we just, you know, dove right back into it with Chad.
Mass Nerder was a huge, huge album for them because it was coming hot off the heels of Everything Sucks.
If it had said Descendents Mass Nerder on it, it would have been, you know, Everything Sucks all over again. You know what I mean? Like, it was, the songs were so strong.
Well, on Mass Nerder, we decided to take a little bit of a different course, and we started opening for bands instead of doing our own headlining shows.
If I could, I would, but you know, I can't lie to you.
We thought, well, we'll suck it up and see if we can play to some of these younger kids, because there aren't that many 40-year-olds that are going to come out and see us, because, like, they have kids, like, they're at home watching Mad About You. So we thought if we could get in front of some of the younger kids, they might like us. It might postpone our obsolescence.
Our band was like the ska punk thing of the late 90s, and we were riding that new band, young band popularity, and here we have all opening for us, and they're going out musically and crushing us every night. But, you know, our fans, some of them got it, but a lot of them were just like, they didn't get it.
All never had the commercial success of the Descendents. They just never did, even though as a label we did the exact same things for one as we did for the other.
What went wrong?
I think by problematic, we could really see, you know, the shows were shrinking by then. They were. I mean, they were small, you know, smaller and smaller crowds.
I mean, it is frustrating. I mean, you want to just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you know, just kind of deal with it.
I think that you never really get past when a band changes to something else.
Yeah, you know, and that's all the power of a name.
We all know that All is the band guilty of not being the Descendents.
Forever, people have been saying, I like the Descendents and I don't like All. And to me, it's like, I get that. I absolutely get that. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I'm not angry about it. But the point is, I'm in the middle of it and I agree.
You know, like, I don't look at it that way. I just, like, musically, it is this thing. And whether it's All or Descendents, I mean, it's the same.
Very simply to me, it's a different singer, but I'm not the guy buying the records.
You know, Milo, he really connects to an audience. It's very peculiar to watch.
Milo is Milo, and you can't replace him. The great singers, you can't replace.
People have kind of idealized that whole period in the early 80s, and that probably explains a lot of it, you know. Bill's my best friend, and, you know, it just bums me when these things that he did that I just thought were just amazing and world-changing or whatever didn't explode into the stratosphere and make his band as big as it should have been.
Believe me, it's hard to be in a really big band and then start another band. It's a weird position to be in. You do it for the love of playing music. You don't do it because you want to be better than the last band you were in. You just want to keep playing. So for a band like All, you know, it was just never going to be easy.
But so what? I mean, who cares? I mean, if 50 people like your band, then 50 people like your band. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not shameful. Where is it said that, you know, every band has to be huge like Michael Jackson? Where was that written?
When you quest All, you're questing something much grander and greater than getting up and going to work at Winchell's.
If you took a Stooges raw power and you did it with a kid who was raised on Help Me Rhonda, what would that sound like?
It would sound like Bill, exactly.
Don't want to spend the rest of my days in yesterday's daydream.
You
No, it's Bill. Bill is,
I'm sure every person that's going to get interviewed for this movie is going to say the same fucking thing.
Bill, I think, is a true anomaly.
He's a conundrum. He's totally a mystery, you know, to most people.
Oh, God, Bill's so weird.
He is Bill Stevenson. We can rebuild him.
Dude, you wrote all these amazing songs. They're so insightful and you're so brilliant. Why are you, like, talking like a homeless man?
Do you like to eat dogs? Yeah, I do. How come I never see you eating them then?
A mathematician's brain trapped in a caveman's body.
Because he's built like a wolf with all that hair.
He can be very intimidating.
And so you fucking shut up. I'll fucking kick your face. And anyway. Dude, what's the deal here? I don't record you when you talk. What's the deal?
Yeah, because I'm not Bill Stevenson.
You're not fucking filming me, are you?
God, he's the greatest drummer on earth.
He's a legend. He's a fucking drumming legend.
The great drummers are the ones who have their own signature. Keith Moon, Stuart Copeland, Neil Peart, and you can put Bill Stevenson in that category.
Watching Bill Stevenson play the drums, it's like he's in his own fucking world, man.
That's just the way the story
That kind of drummer ain't that common.
I fucking worship that dude.
He's really a great player, both an inventor and absorber of ideas.
You can always see, like, the hamster wheel going up top.
Remember in the Terminator movies, how, like, if you're looking at something from the perspective of the Terminator, that's what I think happens in Bill's brain. You say something to him, and he goes, and then he starts, like, thinking about all of the various ways that might impact everything. And so during that time, he may be, you know, doing this.
But man, the stuff he expresses through music has always moved me. He's more reliably delivered goosebumps to me than almost any songwriter.
Hello, it's me, your son again.
He will not bow under to being clever. He will not bow under to making a cheap rhyme scheme. And he will take the trouble of making you very uncomfortable in the name of making you feel something.
I don't know a lot about politics. I don't know a lot about important socioeconomic things. And I just don't. I feel like it's my job to only write something if it really matters. You know, even if it only matters to me.
All I know is the world came between us and the love got left behind. No newsflash, funeral, half-mast flags on the day that our love died.
The great thing about his songs, everything, must absolutely be tied to a real experience in his life.
I don't ever have a guitar on when I write a song. Right when I wake up in the morning, I mean, the first 30 seconds, the melody will come with the lyric, something that I've been ruminating upon in the subconscious. For instance, even though you'll never come clean, you know it's true. Those sheets are dirty, and so are you. Okay, that was a complete thought, a melody, lyrics, and chords in my head, like the way you hear it on the record. I heard that when I woke up. I didn't strum around or plink around. It was just like, oh, that's Clean Sheets. It's done. The song has to come out of me in order for me to be healed or to stop grieving or, you know, that kind of thing. I mean, the last song I wrote that I thought was, you know, murderous was One More Day.
Are you gonna talk about your dad a little bit?
I'll try. I get very upset.
No, I can.
So.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
That's right.
I don't want to talk about my dad.
His father was a complicated man in many respects, and I think they had a very complicated relationship.
I was born when my father was 50, so okay, when Milo Goes to College came out, he was 69. He was a good man, but he was very, very cruel and very, very cold. He would sleep for 1 hour in the morning when he got home from work, and then he would go to his other job, and then he would sleep for 1 hour in the evening, like after giving me dinner and stuff, and then to go to his night job, you know. So he would sleep for 2 hours a day, like 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour at night. He did that for a lot of years. My mom put us into like financial ruination, you know, 'cause she was an alcoholic and everything, and so he, you know, he had to catch up, and you know, he stepped up to the plate, and he did what had to be, you know, to be done to get us so we wouldn't lose our house and all that, you know. I had so much admiration, you know, for him because of that, but at the same time, you know, he was such a cold man, and that made it, you know, really hard to have a father-son, you know, relationship with him.
There's no question that his father did his best, but he was very demanding. He had very high expectations of Bill.
He had a good plan for me, and I think it worked, but, you know, he about killed me trying to implement the plan.
You know, at a certain point, I think Bill figured out that there wasn't really anything in the world that he couldn't figure out how to do. He embraced the kind of effort that, you know, the sort of grassroots, build it from the ground up kind of DIY ethos. That's, you know, he lives, eats, and breathes that. There's certainly some parts of his upbringing that bring him to that place. When his dad got really sick, he brought his dad out from California to Colorado, and their relationship unfortunately didn't end well.
We never had a good relationship, and I tried to take care of him when he was sick. Like, I would carry him to the bathroom and everything. I would have to roll him over to change positions to sleep because he couldn't move, and, you know, carry him and all this stuff. And, you know, I did that during the last, like, year and a half of his life, and he hated me every single second I was doing it.
You know, they moved him to a nursing home, and he died within a couple of days. Now, I've always felt that it was pretty likely that Steve didn't want to die in front of Bill. So One More Day was, you know, just, his relationship with his father was so complicated.
The song offered me closure, but it took, you know, a few years. Time heals all wounds, I guess, is what it is.
One more day, like yesterday. I pick you up, you put me down. Wish you were still around for one more day, like yesterday. With you.
Everyone at some point in their life wakes up and goes, I gotta get a real job. At the point where we were opening up for Pennywise, making $300 a night, it was like, well, hey, guess what? Need a new plan.
Time for a new me.
You know, Bill was married, I was married, Carl was becoming unmarried.
I had just been divorced, you see, so it didn't matter to me. It's like, oh, we got a big empty hall to play to, big fucking deal.
Punk rock won't pay the bills.
You know, we were trying to figure out how to pay the bills and still be in a band, and we had children coming along. Once you have kids, it's kind of like the priorities just immediately reshuffle themselves.
Our dad smells. He farts a lot. He's awesome, and he kicks my butt at basketball. He doesn't care what people think of him, which is a good thing.
I already had a pretty good foot in the door in terms of producing records, you know, so I started, you know, saying yes to more production work.
There was no intentional hiatus. It became kind of impractical. And maybe that would have changed, you know, but I decided to move to Tulsa. You know, my in-laws were here, and I wanted my family to have extended family close by.
Just the good-looking guy. Descendants or all?
Descendants. Descendants.
When we started the band, none of us really expected to make a dime out of it, and we were just happy to be able to afford the burrito the next day and gas to get to the next town. Hit a point where people have wives and children, they start having expectations. And suddenly I had no wife and no band. It was like two things that I thought were kind of permanent factors in my life were kind of gone.
I sent songs to Bill. Hey, here's, a bunch of new stuff. The way I saw it, if nothing else, we could still make records. But by the time I was sending him stuff, I think he was starting to head into being pretty sick.
We were doing a record almost at the height of Bill's illness, and we didn't really know what was going on. We just knew he was really unhealthy and getting unhealthier.
Every time I saw Bill, he was looking worse.
Everybody could kind of tell something was a bit wrong.
I thought it was a nervous breakdown because he's a workaholic kind of guy.
The last time I had spoken with him, he just seemed like he was, in outer space or something.
He started getting mellower, started putting on weight.
He wasn't going to the studio anymore. He was just sitting in front of the TV like a vegetable and getting incredibly large. He peaked out at like 385 or something like that.
But we were all really worried about him and completely clueless as to what to do.
I heard the story about how the neighbor saw his dog out front and, went and knocked on the door to check on him, and Bill was out of it and called him an ambulance, and next thing, he's in the ER.
I got a call from the ER doc that there was a guy downstairs who was in pretty bad shape, who had a pretty large pulmonary embolism, which is a blood clot that basically traveled up to the lungs and got stuck in his lungs. This was a clot probably about, maybe 1.5 feet long or so. It was enormous. I actually recall at the time showing someone the CT scan. Hey, you want to see, look at this, on the screen. And they were like, oh, did you get the autopsy? And I was like, he's alive. When it became apparent that he was going to probably live through this thing, and I started talking to him, just said, you said you were in the music industry, so, what'd you do? And I said, well, I was in a band, I played the drums. Some people would call it punk rock, at which point I'm very interested. So anybody I would have heard of? And he said, there was Black Flag and the Descendants, and all. I was like, you're hallucinating. And then I looked down at the chart, and it's like, John W. Stevenson. So you're Bill Stevenson? He's like, yeah. I'm like, I know who you are. Because he's looking at me as some dorky doctor, and not somebody who, back in the 80s was a huge Descendants fan or anything like that.
I went out there and visited him, and he was better, but he was still kind of out of it a little bit.
It became pretty apparent when he came back to see me that everything was not okay, and that was when he had the MRI done of his head that revealed that he had a meningioma, which is a benign tumor about the size of a tennis ball, basically right in the middle of his head right here, more or less compressing both of his frontal lobes. The cure for the tumor is surgery. You can't do surgery on somebody when they're on blood thinners. And when somebody has an enormous blood clot in their lungs, you have to wait. I think it was at about 5 months, and I said, well, I don't know if we're gonna get him any better, Boom, he was in the operating room, I think in 3 days. There was no guarantee whatsoever that taking this tumor out was gonna bring back his personality. He might get worse, or he might make no recovery.
For us, he's this unsinkable person.
I couldn't imagine not having Bill around.
It's fucked up.
So they went in and put me under, and they sawed my head open, and they removed a 6.5 centimeter meningioma out of my skull and bolted my head back together with titanium plates. And here I am.
We were all prepared for a long, rehab process, but that didn't happen.
He survived 2 things that would kill a normal person.
When I came up out of the anesthesia, I lifted my head up out of the pillow, and I just remember just going, yeah, yes, I knew I wasn't getting old.
He called me 2 days after they removed it, and he was just on cloud 9. It was like a veil was lifted.
It's just bam, that's the Bill I met when I joined the band.
Because it had grown exponentially, kind of in a parabola over years, I just had acclimated to that pressure, and I just thought that that's what a person's head feels like, and that that's what I was going to be like. I was going to be an old, lame, huge fat guy. So it was so cool when they got it out of there, and it was just, everything just became really easy.
It was literally a rebirth. His personality was back where it had been gone.
He's really rejuvenated and just excited about playing and excited about life, and he should be.
And he's drumming better than he has ever.
It's almost like a novel.
I woke up And this Black Flag fan had saved my life, and he lives a block from the studio. It was just so awesome. He made being sick really kick ass, you know?
But I think it put in him even more, if there could be such a thing, even more drive, more earnestness. You know, I got to get done what I got to do with the time I have.
I'm a lucky man. I'm just lucky to be here, and I'm happy to be here, and it's just rad. It's rad to not die.
With Bill's health issues now resolved and the massive debt that was incurred when Bill couldn't really work, with medical bills stacked on top of that, I think Milo was like, maybe we ought to take a few shows.
Johnny Circus and Sean Carlson here with Fun Fest. And today we have the Descendants.
I really, really wanted to see him back on the drum set. I wanted to be able to turn around and watch him doing the Bill thing.
Hey! We're the Descendants!
Which, sure enough, that's how it's been. It's been absolutely incredible.
Just because we've gone away. This is from me and Ray.
I look back and he's almost always has a smile on his face. He's just back there like, as you might expect from someone who almost lost their life twice. He has a new reason to live. He's living it, and he's doing it back there on the drums, and just like this big shit-eating grin on his face.
Milo sort of figured out, I can do this in this limited way, and it works for me, and it's cool. Just blast in there, have a ton of fun, and then go back to my science thing.
It's fun, man. It's, you know, I think it's easier now because, you know, a lot of the problems that might have existed personally and professionally don't exist now. We certainly all have separate lives and get together and do this music, and it's a little bit like a time machine, you know? Part of you is definitely still existing in the time and space where you wrote the song.
We can bring our kids to our show and go like, check me out, I'm rocking, you know? And Miles is like, yeah, my dad shreds on drums.
Thou shalt not take the band's name in vain.
I figure I got to do it now before A, I'm too old, and B, they're teenagers and want to have nothing to do with me.
I want to be stereotyped. I want to be classified.
They still sound amazing, you know, just as powerful as they ever have been.
I want to be stereotyped. I want to be classified.
And it's nice to have the audience like really dig them.
They're maybe even better than they were, which I don't understand.
It's not like wheel out the geezers and let them play. You know, it's like these guys are freaking, you know, they're doing it. That is difficult music to play, and they're blasting.
I didn't even watch any of the show. I sat just facing the audience the entire time because I just couldn't get over it. It was like fucking Van Halen or something.
They've got such passionate fans. Like, they've got fans that will die for them.
The best fucking songs. They were some of the fastest players.
How cool is it to have a song about fishing?
Descendants really spoke to me, and I really felt like that, man, they must be exactly like me, because this song is exactly how I felt.
They wrote the stories of you know, of a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the music always is like the soundtrack to our youth.
I don't know. I can't tell you enough about what they've done for me.
Well, if I had a child, his name would be Milo. I mean, he's a scientist and he's a punk rocker. What cooler thing can you be?
Für mich sind die Descendants eine wunderbare Mischung aus Komplexität, aus Punkrock, aus Melodie.
Esperé casi 10 años para ver a Descendants en vivo y bueno, nada, es un sueño para mí y es increíble. Rock, man.
Thankfully, there was a point where popular bands were influenced by bands that actually meant something, you know? The Descendants were a positive influence on generations of musicians.
I got to put out a Descendants record on my label. How fucking awesome is that?
As far as I'm concerned, they invented pop punk for me. And just that attitude and that musical sensibility. I won't say that I entirely ripped it off, but heavily influenced.
Those lessons that we learned from them back then were important. To this day, I bet you I could play that whole fucking Milo Goes to College album note for note. That's how I learned how to play the drums.
There's no other band like them. It doesn't matter which one they are. There's just not another one.
They were ahead of their time. You know, they were making music that a lot of these bands that hit in the 90s, you know, wouldn't have been making probably if it wasn't for All and the Descendants.
Much of the world may not realize that it all started with the Descendants.
It's just been a bunch of like best friends who kind of, I guess, come in and out of each other's lives. I just wanted Bill to kind of get some fruits from all of his labor, his toil, because he has toiled for many years.
I think he feels himself as a bit of a square peg, you know, and the way that he made his path through life was by forging it on his own. Had he been a poser, he would not have been who he was.
Humanity's big gains, and including rock bands, are about group efforts. If an individual can find a group of people who will share that enthusiasm and hard work and focus and keep that going, you get incredible productivity from it.
It's a good time right now for us, I think. We're having fun. And Milo and I remember when we were walking in Austin, and I just remember going, oh, so if we want to hang out, all we have to do is book shows, and then we get to hang out. And he's like, yeah, why didn't I think of that?
Listen, everybody, welcome to the Centers, Los Angeles, California.